So we called this social media marketing and where do you start, but let's call it social media tooling up. And the image that you see in the top corner here is a toolkit. And there's a lot of tools in social media, and you need to think of these as tools. That's the starting point. So when I do presentations, I like to create an agenda because I've sat in enough presentations to where, oh my God, is this person going to ramble on forever? So I want to know where I'm going. So we're going to cover tools and research and how you do that first, because that's the starting point. If you're going to move into a marketing program, you want to start with the beginning. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening in social media. It's an ever-changing platform. The real nuts and bolts is the 4 C's of social media. We'll cover that. And we're going to try to think out of the box a little bit. And one of the things you've noticed is that we're hopping around a little bit here on the agenda. It's going to look like that. We're going to build up some stuff, and we're going to come back to some topics. And then how big is this stuff? If you're trying to read all of this information about the tangled web, we're not going to do that in this presentation. I'm not going to put up stuff that I'm going to talk about and you're going to try to read. So we're going to try to make it flow and try to get some of the big concepts across to you in social media. So it is a complex environment, and everybody looks at it a little bit differently. So you've got a user experience, and typically because of the way social media is developing, that's the end of the elephant that the user's at all too often, and it's not the good smell, it's the bad smelly end. And we'll talk about how as a marketer you experience it, and this is where the belly rumbles a little bit. And then what the software developer and how these people look at it and want to monetize it. But within that social media realm, we have to look at the environment. There's an environment that this operates on. So looking at one elephant and one experience is not going to be all we're going to do. We're going to look at where that elephant lives. What's it look like? What's the terrain? Back in January 2011, when a lot of people looked at social media, they looked at it like this traditional image of the company owner saying, I'm too busy, I've got to go fight a war, I've got a battle to fight, and here's a guy with a machine gun saying, here's social media. That's changed by July 2011. Everybody is exploring it, but they're like the blind men exploring the elephant. And the concepts continue to evolve. So let's look at that weapon. Everybody views it a little bit differently depending on which aspect they're looking at. So some people are looking at the site area, some people are looking at the functionality, others are looking at how does this stand up to everything. But we overlay that of an expectation. So what does the user expect in social media? Because he's viewing it as an all-encompassing thing. And then what the marketer, what you as a company and how you market, what do you expect from it? And while all this is going on, a third thing's happening, and the platforms are evolving. So the developers of these social media platforms are looking at how things develop. So they're watching all this happen, and it's evolving. So it's like selling your prototype, making it work, coming back and refining it in process while the customer has it. And it's all part of tech adoption. So let's look at that historically as a tool. Somewhere around 1981, most companies decided they needed a fax machine. The day before that, they didn't need a fax machine. Somewhere around 1994, 95, they decided that they needed an email address. And they didn't need it the day before, but to do business, you needed email. Today, a whole bunch of things are happening at once. You've got mobile technology, and that's how people are accessing the web through mobile. Those numbers keep going up. You've got a ton of social media platforms, and then cloud computing. So it can be really, really confusing. The key to remember is these are tools. These are tools. Think about them as tools. Think about them as communication devices. Back then, and this is around the fax machine, we made a transition in technology from typewriters to laptop computers. Now, we're making a transition from laptops to tablets and mobile devices. And we overlay this on something else that happened with websites. In a Web 2.0 world, you looked at a billboard, you saw the billboard, and you didn't interact with it. Around 2006, interaction between websites, participation in forums, people could communicate back and forth. So it's a two-way street. Now that's continuing to evolve, but that's happening in parallel with hardware and software clouds. And the tablets are now evolving with the Web 2.0. So that market is all coming together. How people engage, how people they find things there. And it's all happening at a parallel rate, and that's why it's confusing a lot of times. It's also confusing because different people view it differently. There's different generations out there. Baby boomers are really, really comfortable talking on the phone, reading an email, pick up the phone. The next group, the Gen Xers right behind them, they're really good with an email. They don't necessarily want to talk on the phone to you. They're a little bit more comfortable sending you the email, but they don't feel obliged to call you. The Gen Y guys, these are the people that are coming into the market right now. And a lot of baby boomers have some issues with Gen Y guys. But the Gen Y guys are used to texting. I don't want to read an email. I'm going to send a text because they grew up in an environment where they stood with their cell phone and they texted under the table or under their desk in school so the teacher wouldn't bust them. I'm old enough, I passed notes and tried to score points and look to the pretty girls and say, I passed a note for you. But not these guys. As a result of that, because they're literally wired differently in their heads, their head, synapse-wise, is wired differently than the baby boomers, it flips baby boomers on their heads. It drives them nuts. Then we've got the next group that's going to be coming up. These are the 6 to 15-year-olds. These kids are the Gen Z kids. They've actually done the brain studies on these kids. These kids have connections. They have hardwiring in their head that no previous generation has. They've been on a computer since pretty much when they could talk. These are the people that are, I've learned stuff from 9-year-olds. Honestly, they know how to do things I don't know how to do. They're embedded in this. And you've seen that. You've seen that. I mean, the kid, we talk about writing a blog. These kids are writing blogs. Hey, what happened in school? Right, read my blog, Dad. It's all there. So, these are the big picture stuff again. Social media is about communications. It is a communications tool. So your behavior at IMTS, if you're amongst a group of people here at IMTS at a cocktail party, you want to behave the same way in social media. If someone talks to you, you talk back. You don't come into the middle of the room and say, I have the best product in the world, everybody be quiet. That's rude. People walk away from you. If you come in and just blast out a marketing message, you'll notice this isn't called social media marketing. This is about communication. Everybody looks at you when you stand on that table and yell at you. That was a tweet that just flashed across the screen. And you're going to see some stuff that's going to flash across. Twitter is one of the things that's evolved, and a lot of people are confused by it. Why do I want to have Twitter? We have a presentation on Friday on Twitter. You can read that tweet in about 80 milliseconds. So it reads like a ticker tape. That's the point of it. Once you get used to reading and digesting information that fast, and again, the Gen Y and Gen Z people get this. They can digest that quickly. You need to adapt to it. That's how they're used to getting information, fast. So remember, if you talk over somebody, you become the outcast. Sit, listen to them, talk to them. We talked about 4 C's, so this is the place where you might want to take some notes. The first C is communities. Traditional advertising, and we look at social media as marketing, traditional advertising is about interrupting. I'm going to interrupt somebody with information. Social media is about sharing, interacting, and engaging. Remember, it's the two-way street, the Web 2.0 stuff. Which communities are you in as a company? You want to be where your customers are, but you want to select your communities. Know where your customers are. Where's the conversation happening? Second one is content. This is where the blog stuff comes in. Where does blogs feed to? So if you look at this social media effect, and we talked to the guys at Xair who were here yesterday for a tweet up, and that discussion was, we're going to put the blog out, we're going to have this copy and content that's relevant, fresh, we're going to put information out on very specific solutions so we get found, and we're going to drive that traffic out to our social media spaces so that customers can find the solution and we can answer the questions. And then they can call us with more questions and we can talk to them. So in this, it's not hard selling. You're not coming out and saying, my product's the best thing in the world. You're offering technical solutions so you can become a thought leader. So you don't communicate a sales message. You share information because it's about sharing. When you go and research stuff on, say, Target, when you want to buy something at Target, whatever it is, from a refrigerator to a hammock. You read the reviews. If people are saying bad things about it, you don't buy that. You buy the other one. It's not a function of cost. What company is providing me with good tech information? Fourth one is conversations, which I think if you've been listening, we build to. Traditional advertising is talking at someone. Social media is talking with someone. It's a back and forth conversation. It's a two-way conversation. How important is communication? Here's some data from 2011. What's the most important thing if I ask a question in social media? They better answer my questions promptly. 35%, over 1/3 of the people who use social media as consumers want their questions answered. They want to get in touch with a live person. I want a response, and if I want more information, I want to know how to reach the live person to engage with them and talk to them and answer more questions. And then I want to know about news. If I'm paying attention to your product, your service, whatever you do, I want the feedback loop. I want to have the information back. And give me more content. I want to see more technical information. I want to see more case studies. I want to see more solutions that help me in my business. So what are conversations? It's a comment on a blog post. It's a retweet in Twitter. It's a comment on a Facebook wall. It's a conversation on the Facebook wall. It's a comment on a LinkedIn profile or a forum or a group. Social media users have a bad attitude and when you don't answer their question. So if they ask the question, they expect a response. I'll buy less. I ask you a question, you don't respond, it's like not responding to an email or a text message or a phone call voicemail. You don't answer, I don't have to do business with you, because if this is how I'm going to be treated when I'm asking about your product on the front side, what's customer service going to be like if I have a problem later? You've got to respond. Last one is conversion. This is the traditional sales funnel. So how do you convert somebody from paying attention to you and actually make money off it? It's conversion. That's ultimately what you want to have. So all of the pieces within this should move to conversion. Everything that's driving your strategy in social media should lead to you doing more business, better customer service, a better perception of how you do things. Your culture is going to come out here. That's what scares a lot of people, is that their culture is going to come out. So who's using it at IMTS? And you'll notice we have the IMTS hashtag. If you're using Twitter, there's Twitter walls all through the show. So there's a number of lists within Twitter here, and we've got manufacturing software, trade shows, cutting tool manufacturers. There's tons of people on here. We'll take a quick look at a couple of them. Machine builders, here's a couple of them with their Twitter logos. You've got cutting tool manufacturers, and I lied, that's not cutting tool manufacturers, that's work holding manufacturers. But they're on there too. You've got industrial distributors, so who are your suppliers working with the other people? They're in this show too. These are the guys that are gathering the information for you to bring it back to machine shops. They're on there. You also got machine shops. A lot of people don't realize it, but machine shops are on here talking about the same things for who their customers are. Here's some of the machine shops out here. If you don't follow any other machine shop, probably the preeminent machine shop that's online is out of Pittsburgh, California. They're called Bishop Wisecarver, and they understand how to use this tool. And if you get a chance, you want to engage with those folks. They're great people. Now, who's doing this? It's remember these guys, the Gen Y, Gen Z guys? It's the Gen Y people. Because the Gen Y people are the ones doing the research. When you first get your job, whether you're 18 or 22, out of college as an engineer, you don't get to manage things, you get to research things. You're the grunt. That's your first job. So your job is to identify where the best product is at the top of that sales funnel. These guys are doing the research. So regardless of your age, if you're a baby boomer or a Gen Xer, you're not doing the research. These guys are. These are the tools they're using. If you want to get found, it's not the decision maker, it's the guy doing the research, the girl doing the research. That's your target. So, in mobile, let's look at a few things, because not a lot of people realize there's only 2 operating systems. There's a third called Research in Motion, that's BlackBerry, but they're essentially not there anymore. Everything that's out there is either Apple, with an Apple logo on it, or an Android. Google owns Android. So Google owns this technology. That's something to keep in mind. Smartphones have overtaken PCs in the global market. Tablets have overtaken usage of how people access the web. That's a stat I don't have up here, but that just happened. Let's look at what Google owns. Google owns a whole bunch of things. They own YouTube. YouTube's a social media channel. There's a presentation tomorrow on YouTube. They own Gmail. They own Blogger. You can blog right there. This is important because Google owns Android, as we said. With regard to feature phones, which is your traditional flip phones versus smartphones, you can see where the technology is growing. And this is from these are 2011 numbers. I don't have the data for 2012 yet. But basically, from January 24th, what we're seeing is a 38% increase in the use of smartphones. It's going up, while at the same time, you're seeing feature phones going down. Is anybody familiar with search engine optimization? Okay. SEO, for those that you don't know, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, it's a big algorithm. This is what Google uses. So what you do is when you search for something, and you inherently already know this, you're going to come in and you're going to type a keyword in. Say, so well, I'm looking for shoes. So I type the word shoes. Well, that's probably not going to give you the results you want. So you type in a second word called men's shoes. See how this goes down the graph for how you get found? But that's not what I want. I want red Nike men's running shoes. I want to drill in 304 stainless on a Fadal 4020 machine that's a 10,000 RPM spindle. That's what I'm going to type. How do you get found there? I do aerospace parts. Who does aerospace parts? I just got a job. I need a 23-foot diameter vertical turret lathe to outsource this part. Who does that? Who makes that in my area? That's the kind of stuff you're going to type in. So if you're not writing that stuff in your blog about your capabilities, what you do, who you service, you're not going to get found. And the reason Google's so important is this graph. Because regardless of how you search, whether it's Bing or Yahoo or anything else, see that big red line at the top? Google has the most market share. They own search. Do you want to be nice to Google? If Google says this is what we recommend you do, if you want to get found in search, Google said, we created this G+ to compete with Facebook. You should create a G+ account. You should use our Blogger tool. Well, when you own the market, you should listen to that. That's how people are finding you. So how you search is also changing. So today's the announcement for Apple's new iPhone 5. Last year they introduced the 4S. So there's this little thing called Siri. You've seen the commercials. Siri, tell me how to find a restaurant. So I asked the question, what's the weather like today in Chicago from Siri? And this all has to do with SEO. Think about SEO here. Here's the weather in Chicago for this week. It looks good, right? But if you're searching on Siri, you're not searching in Google. Think about this. Google and Apple, remember Android, Apple own the two operating systems. These guys are competitors. They get along, it's Google search. But Apple changed the game a year ago. They're taking that away from SEO if you're searching on your phone by asking it. You're not going to Google, you're not seeing Google ads. That's why these guys compete, and you got to remember they compete. Because your SEO is destroyed if it's through Siri or any other search method. So there's a famous saying that a picture's worth 1,000 words. So let's search for machine shop projects on Google. I type it in. What keywords are you describing as a machine shop, as a manufacturer, as a OEM builder of stuff to make sure that people can find you? So I type machine shop projects, I hit images, and that's the stuff I found. But that assumes that you're not blind. Robots are blind. So here's a part. Here's what the image is called. So is the robot going to be able to find a PCNMI 5_M? Probably not. It's going to want to know about the text that accompany this, but that's not the name of this image. This is made of 01 tool steel, and it's an OD face cam. It should be named 01 tool steel OD face cam, but it's not. So here's some other parts. This image is entitled CD Shop Pics. So you've got a website, you load the picture up, it's called CD Shop Pics. Does the robot know that that's pictures of precision components that you're making for the aircraft industry or the defense industry? Absolutely not. You got to name the image. They don't know about it unless you tell them what it is. Robots are dumb, they follow an algorithm. Blind robots. So here's how you name your pictures. Traditionally, and the CEO people come, or SEO people come out and say, here's what you've got to do. You've got to name the picture in the alt text. You've got to do more than that because the algorithm's changed. And they announced that a couple times since spring. At Google, remember we're talking about Google. So name the file. Name the file before you upload the file. Name it on your drive before you put it up there. Then put in the title. Title it. What do you want it to be found for? This is the key wording part, right? There's the alt text. This is traditionally what most SEO firms say. Everything else is irrelevant. Call it the CD Shop Pics, but we'll change the alt text. Google wants valid stuff. They know you're working the SEO. There's firms out there that do it. Name the original file. Make the content the same as the alt. Caption it. You want a caption for it? Name it. Gives you a secondary way of saying, these are my parts. This is what we do. We do this on this machine. Write a description for it. A lot of people skip this step. What's really this picture about? Remember we looked at those images a few slides back? If you click on them, it's going to tell you a little blurb what they are. That's where that appears. And where's the link to it? Make sure that your URLs and everything on your website is linked properly there. Remember, search bots are blind. They don't know anything unless you tell them. Be nice to the search bots, be nice to Google. So here's some breaking news. In social media, the platforms are changing so quick, everything breaks. It breaks on a regular basis. You're going to see things break. And part of this in search has to do, Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, everybody knows Mark Zuckerberg. This is how search is thought about. He said a squirrel dying in front of your house may be more relevant to your interests right now than people dying in Africa. So when you do search, and somebody else does search, based upon where you're at, where your computer's located, who you've searched before, it's going to be a distinctly different result than the company right next door and what they search for. So when people look at this and say, look, I'm on the first page of Google. No, you're not. I have a client. In this industry, it's Technics, they're at the show. They own some keywords. I go to another client. The client isn't even in our industry. They have a cloud-based computer service. They have a corporate jet service, and they have a fiber optic network business out in Montana. I says, here's how keywording and search works. I pulled up these keywords. I know we own these keywords. We've owned them for 8 years. We have the whole first page. Didn't show up. We did not show up for rotary tool holder. It wasn't there. Why? Because nobody in that facility had ever Googled that before. They have no interest in our industry. It's not relevant to them. It found stuff at Home Depot for drill chucks. You want to get found in your industry, and you got to understand that what's displaying on your screen is not what other people are seeing necessarily, especially if you're logged into Google and Gmail and everything else. So a lot of people say that Zuckerberg's comment was a failure. I mean, this was not cool. We want relevant search. We don't want a robot aggregating what I see. But in order to deliver search results quicker, they have to do this. You got to recognize that. You will see technically wrong information happen. Search is in a constant state of change, and search isn't search. That's the takeaway from this. Now, according to Google, when they released this in January, they said everybody's delighted with search. At the same time, Google is saying everybody's delighted with the changes we made in search in January. They've changed it since then too. Look right here. Google is delivering less relevant results. It's going to continue to be like that. And you're going to see things as GooglePlus and all the other platforms come out. So here I have a Gmail address, and I have a Gmail app account, so we're pushing the website. I'm the social media director for the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix. We do everything in Google. We have at pvgp.org. But when I tried to link it to our YouTube account, Google came back and said, I'm sorry, you can't link your Google Gmail to our Google account. You have to use Yahoo or something. What? It's because it's changing that fast. They just don't have the connections there. What works today may not work tomorrow. The field that's there today may not be there tomorrow, or it may be broken out into 5 fields and you have to re-tie in things. It's the nature of the industry right now. So even in Facebook, because it's changing, you're going to see, I'm the admin on a bunch of pages. I get this message all the time. You're not authorized to do that. Wait a minute, I'm the admin. If I'm not, who is? I built the thing. It's how the things change. We don't see this that often. Twitter's gotten pretty good at overcapacity stuff, but that's the fail whale. So some nuts and bolts. Where do you get started? Because there is a place to get started in social media. If you haven't built your social media platforms, the first thing is research your brand name. This is a good place to go. It's called social mention. You type it in and say, okay, who's talking about me? In this case, I've typed in IMTS. I typed in IMTS last night. Here's the latest stuff that showed up. How you register, you get to see a whole bunch of information. You can see what keywords are relevant there. Social mention's a little bit different than GooglePlus because it's going to all the social media sites from across the universe. And you'll see it'll say, we're searching across the universe from social media and everywhere else. You want to check this out. Find out who's talking about you and where. Maybe somebody's talking about your parts, your company, the stuff that you do where they have a problem that's buried on a forum. This is how you find out where that discussion's at. And if they're having a problem, you can go in and jump into the conversation, but you want to have the username. And you want to have a standard. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Here's all the stuff, and there's details on this. So all these buttons up in here, these are the pop-ups. You can drill down for more information where on social mention. It's pretty intuitive. Good place to start for the branding. The other thing you can do is you can do market research. What are people saying about my competitors? There's a slide I removed. It's called glassdoor.com. First thing you should do is go in and see if your company's in there, because this is where employees talk about your company. Sometimes I've worked with some companies, I've called some vendors, I've been in distribution, I've been a rep, I've been a manufacturer. I could never figure out what is going on with these people. Until I found Glassdoor. And then I found out what the culture was. I found out what people were saying that work there. Well, that's why my stuff's not arriving, because everybody that works there hates the boss at this one plant. I'm never going to get anything out of this plant. Second place, and this is the real place to start. Find out where you're being talked about. It's called Know'em. It's know'em.com. You want to choose a username. We talked a little bit about consistency in naming your brand. But you want to use the same name in all your social platforms. If it's ABC Inc. in one, and ABC Space Inc. in another, and ABC Inc. Limited, and A period, B period, C period in another, and A space B space C, that's a different company according to the robot. Use consistent branding across the board. So you can type in stuff in here. In this case, we're going to type in printing. I should have typed in 3D printing, but this is printing, because that's hot, obviously, right now at IMTS. You can get bookmarking sites. You can find business sites. These are all social media sites. Remember that chart at the beginning with all the social media sites? This is where they're at. And it'll say printing is available in this space. Social media has niche spaces, so it's beyond Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. There's other places that are industry-specific sites in industry silos that you may want to have the name in, that the company right next to you who doesn't compete with you at this show has no interest in. There may be abrasive sites, there may be machining sites, there may be stamping, there may be metal forming. They're different. Know which ones you want to be and use the same name. You can find information sites. You can find microblogging sites, which is Twitter, and that's only one of them. You can find design sites. You can find travel sites and video sites and news sites and photo sites and community sites. But you want to have the same name in every one of them regardless. We're getting close to the end, so don't be worried. We've got a little bit more to go. So let's look at big data. These are all recent numbers. Online adults aged 25 to 54 are 23% more likely than the US internet user to follow a brand via social networking. That's a big number. 25 to 54 people will follow a brand, which means they're associated with a brand, which means they like the brand. There's a personality with the brand. People buy from people. If they like your personality, they'll buy from you. If you're not in the space and 54% of people are using it, your competitor's using it, they know that company better than they know you. You need to jump in. Gartner, big research firm. Failure to respond via social channels can lead to a 15% increase in churn rate for existing customers. So if an existing customer who absolutely loves you comes you in and asks you a question, and you're doing nothing but broadcasting a sales message on Facebook, and you don't respond, you lose them. You turn them over. Your best customer quits buying from you because you're not responding. So don't just dump in and think that you're not going to respond. You got to respond. This is keeping your customers. 49% of the top 20% of all B2B marketers generating leads through social media. People say you can't generate leads through social media. Wrong. You generate business through social media. If you don't know how to, if you don't have a game plan, social media building is like building a house. A lot of people say, hey, my 15-year-old niece has been using YouTube. She's going to build me a channel. That's great. Your 15-year-old niece is going to be in charge of your branding for the company that you started 31 years ago. Okay. You got to jump in with a plan. It's like building a house. Remember at the beginning we showed you all those sites? There's a lot of considerations that you have. You start with a blueprint. Who's my target audience? Where do I need to be? What spaces do I need to be in? How do I keep my branding the same? That's how you generate leads. You don't come in and say, I own some property, I own a chainsaw, so I'm going to cut down some trees and I'm going to make a log cabin. And then I'm going to come back and say, okay, it got a little bit bigger. I want to put a third floor on my house with French doors and a hot tub. So I call a contractor at that point. Contractor says, okay, we got to rip down the whole log cabin, your foundation can't support it. Don't do that in social media. Start with a plan. Start at the beginning. Architect it out. People are more likely to engage with branded content on social media that contains pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. On Thursday, tomorrow, we're going to talk about YouTube. We're going to talk about neurolinguistic programming and how people learn and why TV works for you. You may want to stop back for that. Pictures are very valuable. Status updates, it better be current. If you're not engaging, if you start the social media site and you haven't done anything on it in 6 months, somebody comes in and says, I wonder if they're still in business. Because 6 months in this world is an eternity. If you're going to engage, you got to engage. Remember, key takeaways here, social media is a tool. Just like the original fax machine took a few years for adoption to happen, it's still a tool. This was a tool. Technology's changed. This is a communication tool. Email is a communication tool. Social media is a communication tool. It's a tool. It's not marketing. It's a tool to help you talk to customers. So remember these things? Remember we engaged this way? Remember when we had Prodigy and America Online, and that was the beginning of it, 3.5-inch floppies? Here's where we're at today. They're iPads and mobile technology. The engagement's going to keep changing. And pretty soon you're going to have steampunk stuff to where you can actually make it look like the typewriter that the baby boomer's comfortable with so he can type on his iPad. That'll make the Gen Y people happy.